So every now and then, expectations are kind of exceeded or changed when watching a movie. And in the case of The Lobster, that's definitely the case. Guys, The Lobster. The Lobster follows the story of a man who is lonely after being in a 12-year relationship. He has no one to turn to, no one at all. So he goes to this place. And this place basically has it where in 45 days, you are supposed to fall in love with someone that is in this place. It's almost like an asylum type area, except that you can basically choose whoever you want as long as you chose that as your preference, so to speak. But in those 45 days, you had to fall in love, or else if you don't, the consequence is that you will turn into an animal and thus be able to fall in love as your animal. So it's very bizarre. It's very interesting, though, at the same time. And in the case of Colin Farrell, the main character, he wants to turn into a lobster. If he does turn into an animal, doesn't fall in love. So there are a lot of themes in this movie. A lot of things to say about relationships in general. The director of this film, you could tell, was trying to get across a lot of major plot points, too, with all these themes as well. And I just also loved how this movie was really touching upon relationships and how it's not just the fact that one thing can, end a relationship. What happens is usually it's one thing can lead you guys together. And I always think of it like this. Kind of like how in Step Brothers, how it was like, did we just become best friends? Like one little thing can then make you guys become best friends, and it could lead on to something better than that. And I was thinking about that during one or two scenes in particular in the beginning of this movie. But this movie is definitely out there. If you were looking for like a typical run-of-the-mill movie, this is definitely not it. This is one of the most bizarre films I think I've seen, and in the best of ways, don't get me wrong. It was just very interesting because I went into it kind of expecting it to be funny, even though one of my friends had forewarned me, hey, this is going to be more serious. And he wasn't wrong. This movie was very, very serious, and the humor is incredibly dark. There were times where I was chuckling, and I was like, I don't think I should be chuckling. I know that that's the humor, but it just didn't feel right. And it was still good, though. And I also have to say, I loved how the music, they used a lot of, it almost felt classical. And in the best of ways, because oftentimes, whenever there was something violent or tension going on, there was one theme that they played, and it was like it just ratcheted up the tension. Now, there were a couple scenes where I was like, okay, maybe you shouldn't have had that in that scene. Maybe. But for overall, I thought that it did a really good job. And I also loved the way this film was shot. I mean, they did a lot of long takes, and I'm a sucker for long takes, and it worked really well. There's nothing really special in terms of the color contrast of the film. I mean, it was a good-looking film, don't get me wrong, but there's nothing outstanding. It's not a Wes Anderson-looking film, but it was still a good-looking film. I just wouldn't say that it was entertaining. I did sit there and tell myself, I'm glad I'm watching this, but I couldn't really tell myself, yes, I'm going to recommend this to everyone. It's an acquired taste. If you can handle bizarre films, you will like it. If you don't like bizarre films and like safe films, this definitely isn't the film for you. I would say go watch The Nice Guys, because that's the kind of film that is. But not a bad thing. I like The Nice Guys a lot. And overall, I think The Lobster, in terms of flaws, I think that towards the end, it kind of ran out of ideas almost. It kind of went into other territory where it was kind of jarring almost. And I didn't notice it right away. It wasn't until when the movie ended where I was like, yeah, that didn't really feel right. But at the same time, the ambiguous ending, a lot of people don't like ambiguous endings, which is fine. I liked it personally, but I kind of wish that they changed it a little bit. But I still liked the ambiguous ending nonetheless. But I will be giving The Lobster a 4.5 out of 5-star rating. This is definitely a film worth checking out. If you can handle bizarre taste in films, of course. If not, I guarantee it won't be for you. But nonetheless, guys, thank you for watching this review, and if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button.